What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back for another Tottenham update, another manager search update. But before the manager hunt, we are going to get into Antonio Conte again. And Football Italia saying that Tottenham are working to dismiss Antonio Conte and he could be followed out the door by Fabio Paratici. And Sammy Mokbel saying that discussions over a potential severance package have now taken place at Tottenham, though there are no indications yet what Conte might agree to. In terms of the Paratici thing, it's quite interesting because I thought there was going to be a lot more kind of synergy between the two, Conte and Paratici. And when you're seeing like these players coming in, especially the Danjuma one, like Danjuma's come in January, and don't tell me Paratici's had nothing to do with that transfer. And it's like there's no conversations between him and Conte. They're supposed to be like really close and buddies and all that kind of stuff. Where's the communication? I don't get it. I get it between Daniel Levy and Conte, but I just don't get. You know what I mean? I get it, but I don't get it. But with Paratici, just makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, that obviously is a peculiar one as to why he would go ahead and sign off on transfers without really assessing it with Conte first and whether these players are right for the system and everything like that. Maybe Paratici has kind of a guidelines from the club and that's what he's following rather than talking with the manager as to who we should sign. Maybe he has guidelines of what the club want and that's how he moves forward with it. I'm not 100% sure what the reasons are. You would have thought Paratici and Conte are good friends and they would be on the same page when it comes to transfers, and I think for a few of them they have been, but then a few of them I think it's been more direction from the club rather than Paratici talking with Conte. When it comes to Paratici leaving, to be honest, I'm pretty apathetic to the idea at the moment. We don't know what his future holds. His future is completely up in the air right now. I think in regards to the last managerial search, I don't think he covered himself in much glory, to be honest. When he kind of pulled the plug on Fonseca last minute, tried to go for Gattuso, there was a fan backlash and he ended up with Nuno, who only lasted 2 months. So for me, I mean, that does give me a bit of worry if he's going to be heading up the new managerial search, because whether, with all the talk of getting the Spurs DNA back, you know, whatever that means, with all the talk that Levy was talking about after Mourinho, I don't know if Paratici understands that. And if that's the case, then is he the right guy to be heading our managerial search? Or is this whole Spurs DNA thing bullshit?
Well,
that's another question.
Yeah, that's definitely a valid question for sure, because, you know, Levy said it all those years ago, 2 years ago, I think it was now.
After Mourinho.
And since then we've gone for Nuno and Conte, which is complete opposite of what you would call the Spurs DNA. But in terms of Fabio, right, I get what you're saying in terms of the manager search, but do you not think that the caliber of player that have come in through this door since Paratici has come here has been much better than maybe previous sporting directors?
Yeah. Definitely, I'm not unhappy with his transfer business, to be honest. I think the transfer business, in terms of player quality, I don't really have a problem with it a lot of the time. Although I would say in his first summer, he did buy a lot of young players, but then when under Nuno, we were kind of very ill-equipped up before Conte was able to get more out of the players. But I just think it's more his future, like with this whole court case looming over, which is looming over his head, the whole the 30-month suspension. You know, we really have to wait till whether it counts in England or not. All these different things. It's like, I think with Conte now out the door, that's who was Paratici's friend. I think it causes too much uncertainty when we're looking for a new manager, whether this guy, you know, they're going to know that they have to work with this guy, but they don't know whether they're going to have to working with him or not. So it causes lots of issues, I think, moving forward. So I don't see the point in keeping him around right now. I know he's a good director of football, clearly. He's got a good eye for talent and he can get the deals over the line, but there are other directors of football out there, to be honest, and I know he's good, but I think him being here is causing probably more problems, I would assume.
It's an interesting one. I mean, I'm not sure the way to look at it, to be honest, because I feel like with the player recruitment side, I'm really happy with the caliber of player coming in. The manager search was obviously a big, stain against his record here. But it all depends, doesn't it? It all just depends on if he can work with the new manager, if their ideas match, and obviously what happens with his court case as well. But it's all up in the air at the moment. And
But do you think his mindset would have changed from last or two summers ago, like when he was going for Gattuso and Nuno? Do you think like he would have maybe learnt his lessons as to why those managerial appointments aren't the right fit for Tottenham, or is he going to continue to look for those kind of managers? That's the big question mark.
It is a big question mark, and you would hope that he's been here long enough to know what we need and what we're looking for.
Because he was still very new at the job then, wasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. So you would hope as well with conversations, Daniel Levy was the one that said, let's get back to the Tottenham DNA. That's up to Fabio to go, Daniel, what is the Tottenham DNA? Is it attacking football? Yes, it is. So hopefully we can get someone of that ilk in. We need someone of the Pochettino mould to come in to this club. But look, we'll have to wait and see how that one plays out. But let's talk about the manager hunt now. And Fabrizio Romano has been speaking about it, and he says both Pochettino and Luis Enrique want to be back coaching as soon as possible, but are waiting to see all the possibilities across Europe and to see if Ancelotti departs, to see where Real Madrid will look as well. Thomas Tuchel, for sure, is one of the managers Tottenham appreciate, but it's understood that that's a complicated option. And then he went on to say there is no way Oliver Glasner will leave Frankfurt before the end of the season at this moment. Tottenham have other priorities. ESPN say Tottenham may try and secure a manager immediately. Thomas Tuchel is a possibility. Tuchel would like to take the Tottenham job if he was offered it. Sky Germany saying Eintracht Frankfurt head coach Glasner has rejected an initial contract extension following the interest from English clubs. Gary Jacobs said Reuben Amorim is one of the names Tottenham are considering. And David Heitner, with a bit of a long update, says Vincent Kompany is of interest of Tottenham. Tottenham retain interest in Pochettino, Thomas Tuchel, Luis Enrique and Robert De Zerbi, and Reuben Amorim has admires from the Tottenham board, but he has a release clause of 20 million euros to release him halfway through a season and 15 million euros if it is in the summer. So there's one new name there in Vincent Kompany, obviously doing an unbelievable job at Burnley. They're miles clear at the top of the Championship. I've seen a few clips from him at Anderlecht as well. He's a guy who really seems to demand authority in that dressing room. And, the football that he's playing as well. Really, really good stuff. He's kind of changed the philosophy of that Burnley team, which have always been a very tough team to beat. He's made them quite attacking and expansive. Would you be open to seeing Vincent Kompany here?
I've been super impressed with how he's got. I mean, I don't know how he did at Anderlecht, but from what I've seen at Burnley, I've been super impressed with how he's got that Burnley team playing. To get Burnley playing the football that they have been playing, it's quite astonishing.
Lost 2 games all year.
And it's the results have been great, but the football's been really good on the eye. And I think he's learnt a lot from a lot of different managers he's had over at Man City. He's had very different variety of managers like Mancini, Pellegrini, obviously Pep Guardiola. So he's had a real different, and obviously at international level as well. He's had Roberto Martinez, who plays a certain style of football. So I think he's taken all of that experience and all that knowledge from these managers, and he likes to play open. You would have thought Vincent Kompany, who was a tough centre back in his day, you would have thought he would be a kind of defensive first kind of manager, but he's definitely not that. And it's really impressive that he's got a Burnley team known for playing 4-4-2. Lump the ball forward, play on the counter attack, tight, compact. And he's completely changed that up, and they're playing some really good football at the moment. So I definitely think he's got he could definitely have a big future. Clearly, Burnley are flying high. They're going to be they're going to be promoted to the Premier League very early.
I think 2 more wins does it, or something like that.
The only thing I would say about Kompany is he's probably looking at the Man City job as his next job, I reckon. He's definitely going to manage City in the future, 100%. So whether he feels like right now is the right time to move away from Burnley and go to Tottenham, when he probably in the long term wants to be a City manager, and does he want to end that Burnley job early, or does he want to see them into the Premier League and really give it a good go? These are big questions, and obviously the way things have gone with Tottenham over the last few years, it's not the most stable club right now, but obviously it does represent a good opportunity for him to test himself at this kind of level. Maybe he'll fancy it. I would be quite open to having Kompany, to be honest, from what I'm seeing. I do think it is a bit of a risk, because He's only been at Burnley 1 year. We haven't seen him in the Premier League. Obviously, he did well at Anderlecht. So there is a bit of risk there. But when I look at up-and-coming managers, I mean, he's one of the ones I'm definitely looking at.
Would you like to see him potentially manage a season in the Premier League, though, before he comes here?
Ideally, but obviously we don't have that time yet. But yeah, obviously I would, yeah. But then in a year's time, I'd like to think we have a manager who's settled at that point. I'd like to think.
He could be our next manager after the next manager.
Yeah, but I think he'll be at City by then, in my opinion. I think he's City's manager after Pep.
Yeah, it's interesting, the City one. Like, do we really want someone that's kind of nailed on for City? Because if you would think that maybe the City role would come up whilst this next manager is in charge. So do we really want someone that could potentially go to City? Pep was talking about before the Burnley game, like he's absolutely nailed on. He's 100% going to be a manager of City in the future. And if Pep's going to leave in the next 2-3 years, do we really want someone that's going to have their eye on that job?
That's another question. I think when you're appointing a manager, you can't be thinking like that. I think, because unless it's literally going to happen in the next year or so, I think you just got to focus on the job in hand right now and what he can bring to us. But I just think there's too much of a risk in getting him early when he hasn't managed in the Premier League just yet, and also the other factors as well. But I do think under different circumstances, he could be the guy that we would look at right now.
What about Michael Carrick? He's not mentioned in any of these articles, but he's having an unbelievable time of it at Middlesbrough. Unbelievable form. Looks like they could potentially get automatic promotion, and currently sitting third, I think it is. Yeah, third, 3 points off automatic places, Sheffield United. Obviously, he's got Tottenham ties as well. He had an interim role at Manchester United. I think he was unbeaten in that interim role.
He beat Arsenal, I think, if I remember rightly. They beat Arsenal when he was in charge.
So, I mean, he should be a viable option as well.
Clearly he's doing a decent job. I don't know enough about his style of play and all that kind of stuff and how he sets up his teams. And obviously he's doing a brilliant job in Middlesbrough. I don't know if he's a viable option, though, compared to someone like Kompany. Kompany's are literally blowing it away. Carrick's doing well. No, don't get me wrong. He is doing really well. And I think he took them over when they were kind of floundering, and they've got them in a position where they're challenging the automatic spot. So clearly he's doing a fantastic job. I just don't know enough about, like, I've seen Kompany and Burnley and I've seen their football. I just don't know enough about Middlesbrough to say that this guy is playing the football that we want to see at Tottenham.
Other managers that were mentioned on here were De Zerbi. I mean, I can't really see De Zerbi leaving Brighton halfway through a season or even at the end of the season. Yeah,
he plays great football, to be fair, De Zerbi. In a weird way, though, he plays football similar to Conte, but just a bit more offensive, because he actually plays football where he likes to draw the team, play the team deep, play a lot of passes in around the back line to draw the opposition and hits them. But what he is better at Conte at, from what I've seen at Brighton anyway, is when they play teams who sit deep, they have a lot more patterns of play to open teams up. So even though it's similar to Conte, it's a bit more offensive, but he's only been there 6 months. I can't see him just jumping ship. I know he's quite a ambitious manager. You know, we've seen managers like Marco Silva when he was at Watford. He was there for about 6 months, and the Everton job came up, and he tried to leave, and obviously it didn't happen. But we've seen managers do it before. So if he has that ambition, maybe he would try and leave. But I think it would be the wrong call. I think for him, like, he's only joined mid-season. Imagine jumping ship. Is that the kind of manager you want? Someone who's going to just jump ship at the best option whenever it suits him. I think that's not the kind of manager you want anyway.
Yeah, and that's kind of my reservations about Kompany as well.
Yeah, we don't know that about Kompany.
No, we don't. But as well, like, him leaving Burnley is also coming back to the Premier League, jumping ship. And if the Man City opportunity comes available, you know, that could potentially be an option. Reuben Amorim, another manager, obviously at Sporting at the moment, but you know, really impressive in Europe this season. But I'm looking at their league form. They're fourth in the league, 18 points behind Benfica in top. They're even 6 points behind Braga in third. I mean, he plays nice football. They've got a conveyor belt of talent coming through the academy there. I mean, is he that impressive, Amorim?
I mean, to be fair, to defend Amorim, they lost a lot of players in the summer, didn't they? They lost João Paulinho. They lost. They sold obviously. They lost Porro in January. They lost. There was another one they lost as well. What's his name? Played for Wolves. Matthias Nunes. They lost as well. I think they might have lost a striker. So I think there's a lot of circumstances surrounding. Did they win the league last year? Or I can't remember what they did last season. But I think I thought I was really impressed with how his team played against Arsenal. I have to say, they
came second.
They were super impressive when they played Arsenal. And he does play quite a style which would suit the squad potentially we have with the wing back system and that kind of thing. But when you're taking over, when you're a manager who's 18 points behind in the Portuguese league, there's obviously going to have to be reservations there. He is doing well in Europe. I think that's maybe more of a testament to his managerial skill than maybe how he's doing in the Portuguese league, because when you're coming up against the best team and how your teams are playing and how you're competing, maybe that's more of a that shows more of how he is as a manager rather than the Portuguese league. But
See,
a lot of people are very excited about a potential appointment about Amorim.
I know, but I don't really buy the he lost players thing, because you're looking at Benfica at 18 points clear. They lost Darwin Núñez. You know what I mean? Their talisman.
Mm-hmm.
This happens in the Portuguese league every single year to the big Portuguese clubs, doesn't it? So they all seem to figure a way around it. And when you're finished 85 points, second in the league, and now you're 4 points and miles off, I don't know. It rings alarm bells to me a little bit.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, that's fair assessment. But he has kept up the standards in Europe, I guess, and they've been very impressive there. So I think he's one to think about, but I don't know. I mean,
he's going to cost a lot of money as well.
Yeah, I think that right now, also, is he going to leave mid-season when they've just gone through in Europe? Maybe he's thinking, I've got a chance of winning the Europa League. Why would he leave mid-season?
Yeah, but the shiny lights of the Premier League, it might be too hard to resist.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, it might be. It might be. He is a young, up-and-coming, ambitious manager. But is it worth the money? And we have to make that. I don't know if it is.
Yeah, and we've spoken about Poch to death. We've spoken about Luis Enrique. Let's finish off with Thomas Tuchel, who's the name is on everyone's lips at the moment. Apparently very open to join Tottenham. Thomas Tuchel, Tottenham boy, Tottenham fan growing up in Germany, apparently.
He said that in a press conference once, when he was Dortmund.
And I was actually watching a clip on doing the rounds on social media last night. They asked him whilst he was Chelsea manager, would you ever manage Spurs? And he just laughed. But it's funny, like, could you imagine when Conte and Tuchel had that thing earlier on this season, that potentially Conte could be out before the end of the season and Tuchel could be our manager?
Yeah, I know. You wouldn't think it, would you? It's weird how that happens. I remember, like, it was similar to like Mourinho and Poch. They had like a little clash, and then they end up Mourinho to go for Pochettino. I really like Tuchel. I know he's bright. When people say, I don't want another former Chelsea manager and all these kind of things, he's kind of tarnished with that same brush. And to be fair, you could argue fairly, because he's a very high demanding manager. He's got a track record of falling out with the hierarchy, and very publicly as well. But I do think from a footballing standpoint, he plays different kind of football to Mourinho and Conte. He did Dortmund anyway. I know at Chelsea, when they won the Champions League, he had a bit of a reputation of kind of playing a bit defensive. But I think that's kind of the squad they had. He had to do what he had with the squad. I remember when he was at Dortmund, they played some brilliant football. I remember we played them in Europa League when he was manager, and he absolutely tore us to shreds over 2 legs. They played some beautiful football. I do think he could fit the Tottenham DNA, but I just think he's another manager who's going to be going to have a lot of demands, and could very well fall out publicly with the hierarchy, which is done at many other clubs. So, is it just another manager who's doomed to fail?
What I like about Tuchel is that he's very tactically flexible. Very flexible tactically. I think that he's very comfortable playing many different philosophies of football, to be honest. And that's what I really like about him. But like you say, I just can't see it working at this football club. And yeah, you get excited. You'll get excited bringing him in.
If he got hired tomorrow, of course I'd be excited, because that mindset would be, oh, surely he's joining with promises and all these kind of things, and then you get that in your mind. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? You get that in your mind. You would have thought surely he's accepting this job. Well, after seeing Mourinho and Conte and Pochettino, surely he has to have some sort of assurances. But then you would have said the same about all the other managers. Exactly. So it's just like, how can you get excited?
Exactly. So, I mean, I would get excited just because that's just the Spurs fan in me. And I'll always get excited no matter what manager comes in, to be honest. I mean, even if I was actually having a discussion yesterday with someone, and I was saying, even if Ryan Mason was to come in, I'd probably get a bit excited because I've actually got a bit of I'm not going to be excited completely about, where we could go with Ryan Mason, but it's just going to be pure vibes with Ryan Mason. And, you never know. Maybe he can surprise a few people, Mason. He's actually got quite... it's only in Tottenham that this reputation's happening, but he's got a reputation, and people in Tottenham seem to like him, apparently. So
everyone likes Mason. Doesn't make him like a great coach.
Yeah, I know.
People love Ledley King. He wasn't a very good coach.
I know. But look, I think with Mason, Poch seems to really like him. Mourinho apparently seemed to like... Not Mourinho. Who was it? Conte seemed to like him. And people that work with him seem to think he's got a future in the game. But, I haven't seen any evidence of that. But, look, back to Tuchel. I just feel like with Tuchel, it'll be over in 18 months, max.
That's the feeling I get. I do think he's a brilliant manager. I really do. And he'll, wherever he goes in his next job, I'm sure he'll be a success, except if it's at Tottenham.
Yeah. But let's just make this marriage of convenience with Poch work, man. Just get it done.
Makes too much sense.
Enough of this flirting and sexual tension all the time with Pochettino and Spurs fans and the Spurs board. Let's just get this marriage done. Let's just sign the papers.
Put
that ring on that finger. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's enough. How many years have we been flirting with each other again now?
Mm-hmm. Literally.
Between every different manager.
We're not over him. He's not over us either. You can see that in his interview. We haven't been over him. We've always been chasing what we missed under what he didn't quite give us, but we're always pining for what we had. And that's the reality.
Exactly. We broke up when we shouldn't have broken up. So let's just get back together and make it last.
Exactly.
That's what I say. So that is your Tottenham update for today. I want to know your opinions on all those different managers in the comment section below. But thank you, everyone, for joining us. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always,
come on, you Spurs.